Daniel Harris stood at the window of his office, looking at the busy streets of Washington, D.C. below. The early morning sun reflected off the glass buildings. His phone rang, breaking the quiet moment. "Ambassador Harris speaking," he answered. "Sir, this is General Scott. You need to come to the Pentagon right away. We've received a message from the Galactic Council." Daniel's heart beat faster. For 50 years, humanity had been trying to join the Galactic Council. For 50 years, they had been rejected. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, Daniel said, already reaching for his coat. The ride to the Pentagon was quick. Daniel's mind raced with possibilities. The Galactic Council, made up of 23 alien civilizations, had always looked down on humans. They said humans were too violent, too unpredictable, too primitive to join their elite group. At the Pentagon, Daniel was led to a secure room deep underground. President Olivia Martinez was already there, along with top military officers and scientists. "Ambassador Harris," the president said, "the council has requested your presence. They want a human representative to appear before them in 3 days." Dr. Susan Collins, the leading expert on alien cultures, stepped forward. "This is unprecedented. They've never invited us to speak directly to the full council before." "Is this good news?" Daniel asked. "Are they finally considering our membership?" General Scott frowned. "We're not sure." The message was strange, formal but cold. "Something has changed. You leave tomorrow," President Martinez said. "The ship Olive Branch is being prepared. Dr. Collins will go with you as your aide, and Captain Alan Rodriguez will serve as your military advisor." "Military advisor?" Daniel questioned. "For a diplomatic mission." "Just a precaution," the president said, but her eyes showed worry. The next morning, Daniel boarded the Olive Branch. The ship was one of Earth's finest diplomatic vessels, sleek, comfortable, but also equipped with the latest defensive technology. As they left Earth's atmosphere, Daniel felt the familiar mix of excitement and nervousness that came with space travel. In his private cabin, Daniel studied files on all 23 council species. He paid special attention to the Xanthari, the oldest and most powerful council members. The Xanthari had consistently blocked Earth's admission. Their tall, thin bodies and large eyes gave them an appearance of wisdom, but their politics were often cold and calculating. "Ambassador." Susan entered his cabin. "Captain Rodriguez wants to show us something." They went to the ship's control room, where Rodriguez pointed to a display screen. "Council intelligence ships have been scanning Earth for the past month," Rodriguez explained. "They're being careful, staying just outside our detection range, but we spotted them." "Why would they be scanning us?" Daniel asked. "They're looking for something," Susan said, "and I think they found it. That's why they've suddenly invited us." Daniel looked at the star map showing their course to the council station orbiting Epsilon Eridani. The journey would take 2 more days at maximum speed. "Whatever they want," Daniel said, "we need to be prepared." "Susan, give me everything you have on council meeting protocols." "Alan, I want to know our options if things go badly." As Daniel returned to his cabin, he felt a growing sense of unease. Throughout human history, unexpected invitations from powerful groups rarely ended well for the invited party. That night, as artificial gravity kept him firmly in his bed, despite traveling at incredible speed through the darkness of space, Daniel dreamed of standing before alien judges, trying to defend a crime he didn't know he had committed. What he couldn't know was that Council intelligence had discovered a terrible truth about human history, a truth they believed made humans too dangerous to ever join their peaceful coalition. The Olive Branch docked at the massive Galactic Council station, orbiting Epsilon Eridani on the 3rd day. Daniel stood at the viewing port, taking in the enormous structure. It looked like a silver wheel with spokes extending from a central hub. Ships of various designs moved around it like fish in a pond. "Impressive, isn't it?" Susan said, joining him. "The station is over 5 miles across. Each section houses representatives from different worlds. And now they'll have to make room for us," Daniel replied, trying to sound confident. Captain Rodriguez approached them, his face serious. Ambassador, the Council Honor Guard is waiting to escort us aboard. Remember, every move we make will be analyzed. These aliens have been watching humans for decades. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. 4 tall Zinthuri guards stood waiting. Their blue skin shimmered under the lights, and their large eyes blinked slowly as they examined the humans. Ambassador Harris of Earth, one spoke in perfect English. The council awaits. Follow. They walked through wide corridors filled with aliens of different shapes and sizes. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Daniel couldn't tell which part was the face. Many stopped to stare at the human delegation. They're afraid, Susan whispered. Look at how they move away from us. After a long walk, they reached enormous double doors carved with symbols from all council member worlds. The doors swung open silently, revealing the council chamber. It was a vast circular room with rising tiers of seats, like a giant theater. Each section held representatives from different planets. At the center was a speaking platform surrounded by water. The ceiling displayed a perfect moving image of space. The water is symbolic, Susan explained quickly. It represents truth, clear and reflective. The Zinthari guard directed them to the speaking platform. As they stepped onto it, a hush fell over the chamber. High Counselor Vexnar of the Zinthari rose from his seat. He was taller than the guards, with elaborate markings on his face showing his high rank. When he spoke, his voice carried throughout the chamber without needing amplification. The council recognizes the representatives of Earth, he said. We welcome you to this gathering of civilized worlds. Daniel stepped forward. High Counselor, members of the Galactic Council, we are honored by this invitation. Earth has long sought to join your. You were not invited to petition for membership. Vexnar interrupted coldly. You were summoned to answer an accusation. Murmurs ran through the chamber. Daniel felt Susan stiffen beside him. Accusation? Daniel asked. What possible accusation could you have against Earth? Vexnar gestured, and the space above the platform filled with holographic images, ancient stone tablets, DNA sequences, star maps, archaeological sites on Earth that Daniel didn't recognize. For 200 years, we have observed humanity, Vexnar said. We watched your rapid technological development with suspicion. It seemed unnatural. Now we know why. Another counselor stood, a reptilian alien with bright orange scales. Our archaeologists discovered ruins on your moon, she said, ruins that predate human civilization. They contained records about Earth. Vexinar's large eyes fixed on Daniel. Humans were not naturally evolved. You were engineered as weapons by the Krell Empire 50,000 years ago. Your aggressive tendencies, your adaptability, your unusual resistance to radiation, all designed for combat. The chamber erupted with shouts and cries. Some counselors stood, pointing at the humans. Others huddled together, talking rapidly. The Krell. Captain Rodriguez whispered. Who are the Krell? An ancient species, Susan replied, her face pale. According to legends, they conquered half the galaxy before disappearing. They're considered myths by most Sino historians. Daniel struggled to process this information. Engineered as weapons? It couldn't be true. But the evidence floating above him looked convincing. This is absurd, Daniel said, but his voice lacked conviction. Is it? Vexnar asked. We have the genetic markers. We have the historical records. Humans were designed to kill, to conquer. You are living weapons, and you asked to join our peaceful council. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward. This is outrageous. You can't judge an entire species based on ancient history. We can, and we must, Vexnar replied. The council must vote on Earth's quarantine immediately. Daniel raised his hand. I request time to consult with my government. If these claims are true, we have as much right to know about them as you do. After a tense silence, Vexnar nodded. You have 48 standard hours. Back aboard the Olive Branch, Daniel paced the small conference room. Susan worked at a computer terminal, examining the data the council had provided. Captain Rodriguez stood with his arms crossed, watching a security feed of council ships outside. "They've moved 4 warships into position around us," Rodriguez said. "They're not taking any chances." Daniel stopped pacing. "Can we break through if we need to?" "Maybe," Rodriguez replied. "But we wouldn't get far." The communication system chimed. "Ambassador, secure transmission from Earth," the ship's pilot announced. Daniel pressed a button, and President Martinez appeared on the screen. Her face was grim. "Madam President, you received our report?" Daniel asked. "Yes. The situation is worse than you know," she said. "After your message, I authorized access to certain sealed files that only 5 people on Earth knew existed." Susan moved closer to the screen. "What files?" "Records dating back thousands of years. The Council is partly right, Ambassador Harris." The President took a deep breath. "Humans were engineered by the Krell, but that's not the whole story." Daniel felt his stomach tighten. "What's the whole story?" "The Krell did create humans as weapons, biological soldiers they could control. But 50,000 years ago, something happened that they didn't expect. The humans they created rebelled. Images began to appear on the screen. Ancient cave paintings showing tall, thin figures commanding humans, then humans fighting back. Our ancestors overthrew their masters," President Martinez continued. "There was a war, a terrible war, and the humans won. They destroyed the Krell completely." "That's impossible," Susan whispered. "How could primitive humans defeat an advanced species?" "Because we were designed to fight," Rodriguez said quietly, "and we turned that ability against our creators." The president nodded. "After the war, humans inherited Earth. Over thousands of years, we forgot our origins. We developed our own civilizations, our own history. Only a few hidden records remained, protected by secret groups through the centuries." Daniel sat down heavily. "So the Council is right. We were weapons. We were slaves who won our freedom." The president corrected. "There's a difference." Susan was reviewing the new data. "This explains so much. Our unusual biological adaptability, our aggressive tendencies compared to other species, even our rapid technological development." "What do we do with this information?" Daniel asked. The president's expression hardened. "That's what we've been discussing. Some advisors want to deny everything, claim the evidence is fake. Others suggest we beg for mercy, promise to control our violent nature." "And what do you think we should do?" Daniel asked. "I think we should tell the truth, but use it to our advantage." Rodriguez nodded slowly. "They fear us because of what we were made to be. We could use that fear." Susan looked alarmed. "You're not suggesting we threaten the Council?" "Not exactly," the president said. "Ambassador Harris, I'm giving you extraordinary authority in this matter. You know the situation firsthand. You understand alien psychology better than anyone else on Earth. What are you asking me to do?" Daniel's voice was steady despite his racing thoughts. "Find a way to turn this crisis into an opportunity. The Council fears what humans might become. Show them what we already are. A species that overthrew its masters and chose peace for thousands of years." The transmission ended, leaving the 3 humans in silence. Susan spoke first. "They want us to use their fear against them. That's a dangerous game." "So is declaring billions of humans too dangerous to join civilized society," Rodriguez countered. Daniel walked to the viewing port. The Council station loomed large, its lights reflecting the distant sun. Somewhere in that structure, 23 species were deciding humanity's fate. "We have 24 hours left," Daniel said finally. "Susan, I need you to analyze everything we know about each Council species, their history, their weaknesses, their relationships with other members." "What are you planning?" she asked. "I'm not sure yet," Daniel admitted. "But I know this. I won't let them quarantine Earth without a fight." Rodriguez smiled grimly. If they think we're dangerous now, wait until they threaten our home. Daniel didn't sleep that night. He sat in his quarters reviewing everything Susan had compiled about the council species. The Xanthari were the oldest members and natural leaders, but they weren't the strongest militarily. That honor belonged to the Valerians, a warrior race that had reformed their violent ways centuries ago. The Eridani were the scientists, the Juxonians were the traders, and the Myth were the diplomats. Every species had their strengths, their weaknesses, and their fears. At dawn, ship time, Susan knocked on his door. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. "I've analyzed the council's reaction," she said. 7 species are firmly against us. 10 are undecided. 6 might support us if given the right incentive. "And what incentive would that be?" Daniel asked. "Protection," Rodriguez said, entering the room. "I've been monitoring council communications. There's unrest in the outer systems. Pirates, rebels, resource disputes. The council military is stretched thin." Daniel nodded slowly. "So they fear us because we were made as weapons, but they might need weapons." "It's a delicate balance," Susan warned. "We can't appear too aggressive, or they'll unite against us. But we can't appear weak either." Daniel stood up. "I've made my decision. We'll confirm their accusations. We'll tell them exactly what humans are." "Are you sure?" Susan asked, alarmed. "If we admit we were created as weapons, we'll tell them we were slaves who won freedom," Daniel interrupted. "And we'll make it clear that we will defend that freedom at any cost." Rodriguez smiled, a show of strength. "Not just strength," Daniel said. "Determination, will, the very qualities that let our ancestors overthrow the Krell." The ship's communication system chimed. It was a message from Earth. Several council species had already begun economic sanctions against human colonies. 2 military vessels were moving toward the human outpost on Proxima Centauri. "They're not waiting for the vote," Rodriguez said angrily. Daniel's face hardened. "Then neither will we." The 3 spent the morning preparing. Susan crafted a statement that acknowledged human origins without apology. Rodriguez prepared a technical demonstration that would show the council just how advanced human technology had become. Daniel rehearsed his speech, finding the right balance between diplomacy and warning. Just before they were due to return to the council, President Martinez called again. "The situation is escalating," she said. "Our intelligence reports council species moving military assets near all our colonies." "They're preparing for quarantine," Daniel said. "Or worse. Earth has activated our defense grid," the president said. "All military vessels are on high alert. But we're outnumbered. Quality over quantity," Rodriguez said confidently. "Our ships are more advanced than most of theirs." The president looked at Daniel. "Ambassador, whatever you're planning, know that Earth stands behind you. But try to avoid an actual war if possible." "I understand," Daniel replied. "I think they'll back down when they see what they're facing." "And if they don't?" Susan asked after the president ended the call. Daniel didn't answer directly. Instead, he took a small device from Rodriguez and placed it in his pocket. "Let's go face the council," he said. They walked through the corridors of the station toward the council chamber. Other aliens moved out of their way, some watching with obvious fear, others with hostility. "They've already decided we're the enemy," Susan whispered. "Then we'll show them what happens to those who make enemies of humans," Rodriguez replied. Daniel stopped them before the massive doors. "Remember the plan. No matter what they say, no matter how they provoke us, we stick to the plan." Susan nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. Rodriguez stood straighter, his military training evident in every move. The doors swung open. The council chamber was packed, every seat filled. The tension in the air was thick enough to touch. As Daniel walked to the central platform, he knew that what happened in the next few minutes would determine the fate of humanity among the stars. He touched the device in his pocket for reassurance. It was time to show the galaxy exactly what humans were capable of. The council chamber fell silent as Daniel took his place on the speaking platform. The water around it rippled slightly, reflecting the tense faces of alien representatives on every side. High Counselor Vexnar stood, his blue skin almost pale in the chamber's light. "The humans have returned to hear our judgment," Vexnar announced. "The evidence has been reviewed by all council members. Before we vote on the quarantine of Earth, do the human representatives wish to speak?" Daniel stepped forward. His voice was calm, but carried throughout the vast chamber. "We do not come to hear your judgment," he said. "We come to share the truth." Murmurs ran through the crowd. Susan and Rodriguez stood straight behind Daniel, their faces composed despite their nervousness. "The truth." Vexnar's large eyes narrowed. "We have already uncovered the truth about your kind." "You uncovered part of it," Daniel replied. "Yes, humans were created by the Krell Empire. Yes, we were engineered for combat and survival. We were made to be weapons." The chamber grew louder with shocked whispers. Few had expected such an open admission. "But that is not the end of our story," Daniel continued. 50,000 years ago, our ancestors did something the Krell never expected. We broke free. We rebelled. We overthrew our masters and claimed our planet for ourselves. "So you admit your violent nature," shouted a Valerian representative, rising from his seat. "You killed your own creators." "We killed our enslavers," Daniel corrected firmly. "And having won our freedom, what did humans do? Did we build warships and attack other worlds? Did we seek revenge against other species? No, we built civilizations. We created art, music, literature. We explored science and philosophy." Susan stepped forward, activating a holographic display showing Earth's history, cave paintings, pyramids, the works of Leonardo da Vinci, modern cities. "For 50,000 years, Daniel said, we chose peace. We chose creation over destruction. We mastered our nature rather than letting it master us." "Pretty words," Vexnar said dismissively, "but they change nothing. The Krell weapon still exists in your genes, in your instincts. You remain dangerous." "All species are dangerous when threatened," Daniel replied. His voice hardened. "Which brings me to the reason I stand before you today." Daniel reached into his pocket and removed the small device Rodriguez had given him. "We have observed council ships moving into position around our colonies. We have detected scanning beams targeting our defense systems. We have intercepted communications discussing military options against Earth." The council erupted into shouting. Some representatives denied the accusations. Others demanded immediate action. Daniel raised his hand, waiting for quiet. When it came, his next words sent shockwaves through the chamber. "Therefore, as the authorized representative of Earth and all human colonies, I am declaring war on any species that threatens our sovereignty." Complete silence fell. Even Vexnar seemed stunned. "You declare war on the Galactic Council?" he finally asked, his voice barely controlled. "Your single planet against 23 advanced civilizations." "We are what you fear," Daniel said coldly. "We were created for war by masters we overthrew. We have lived in peace because we chose to. But if threatened, we will remember what we were made for." Rodriguez stepped forward, activating a display showing detailed schematics of Council military vessels and defensive technologies. "For decades, we have studied your capabilities," Daniel explained. "Every weapon, every shield, every tactic. Our fleets are smaller, yes, but they were designed specifically to defeat yours." "This is madness," a myth representative said. "You cannot hope to win." "Perhaps," Daniel agreed. "But ask yourselves this: how much are you willing to lose before we fall? How many ships? How many lives? How many worlds?" He pressed a button on the small device in his hand. "This conversation has been transmitted live to every human colony and to Earth. Our forces are now on full alert. The choice is yours, counselors. Recognize us as equals or face us as enemies. The council chamber descended into chaos. Some representatives shouted for immediate military action. Others called frantically for diplomacy. Through it all, Daniel stood unmoved on the platform, Susan and Rodriguez beside him. The first move in humanity's most dangerous game had been played. Now they would see how the council responded. For several minutes, the council chamber was filled with shouting, threats, and confusion. Species that had been allies for centuries turned on each other, some demanding immediate military action, others urging caution. Vexnar struggled to restore order, his voice barely audible over the chaos. Daniel stood calmly in the center of the storm. Susan leaned close to him. "Do you think this will work?" she whispered. "We're about to find out," Daniel replied. Finally, Vexnar managed to quiet the chamber by activating a sound-dampening field that lowered all voices except his own. "This is unprecedented," he said, his eyes fixed on Daniel. "No species has ever threatened the council in this manner. No species has ever been treated as we have," Daniel countered. "You discovered our origins and immediately moved to quarantine our world without giving us a chance to speak. Your ships are already positioning themselves around our colonies. What response did you expect?" A Juxonian representative stood. "The human speaks truth. We acted in fear rather than wisdom." "Fear is wisdom when faced with a predator," a Valerian shot back. Daniel raised his hand. "Let me be clear. We do not want war. Earth has sought peaceful relations with all council species for decades. We still seek that peace, but we will not accept being treated as lesser beings because of how we began." Captain Rodriguez stepped forward. "To demonstrate the seriousness of our position, I offer a small demonstration." Before anyone could object, Rodriguez activated a device on his wrist. Throughout the council chamber, lights flickered. Communication devices went silent. The holographic displays showing human history vanished. Even the council members' personal technology failed. Alarm shouts echoed through the chamber as security personnel rushed forward. Then, just as suddenly, everything returned to normal. "The localized electromagnetic pulse," Rodriguez explained calmly, "calibrated specifically to affect council technology without harming organic life. One of many defensive measures we've developed." "You dare attack the council chamber?" Vexnar thundered. "Not an attack," Daniel corrected. "A demonstration. Had this been an attack, your security systems would remain offline, your communications down, your ships in orbit disabled. We could have brought weapons. We didn't." The chamber fell silent again, but this time the silence was tinged with a new emotion, respect mixed with fear. Susan stepped forward. "The pulse affected 27 different technological systems used by council species. We understand your technology because we've studied it, just as you've studied us. The difference is that we never planned to use that knowledge against you until you threatened us." A new voice spoke from the upper tiers. It belonged to an Eridani, the most scientifically advanced council species. "I would like to know," the Eridani asked, "if humans truly overcame their created nature, why did you just threaten us with war? Does that not prove the council's concerns?" Daniel smiled slightly. "We threatened war only in response to your aggression. We don't seek conflict. We seek to prevent it. There's a difference. And what guarantee do we have that humans won't become a threat in the future?" Vexnar demanded. "What proof do you offer of your peaceful intentions?" "The same proof any species offers," Daniel replied. "Our actions over time. For 50,000 years, we built civilizations instead of empires. We explore our world instead of conquering others. Even when we developed space travel, we sought contact and cooperation, not conquest." The myth representative, known for diplomatic skill, stood. "I propose we adjourn for one day to consider this new information. Clearly, the situation is more complex than we initially believed." Vexnar looked like he wanted to object, but faced with the chamber's mood, he nodded reluctantly. "The council will reconvene tomorrow. Until then, the human delegation will remain on their ship under guard." As they left the chamber, Susan whispered to Daniel, "Is that a victory or a delay of execution?" "Neither," Daniel replied. "It's an opening. Now we need to use it." Rodriguez looked back at the chamber, where counselors were huddled in urgent conversations. They're frightened, but also curious. Fear can lead to hatred, but curiosity can lead to understanding. "Let's hope curiosity wins," Daniel said as they walked back toward the olive branch, followed by a nervous Xanthari security detail that kept a careful distance. Back on the olive branch, Daniel met with Susan and Rodriguez to plan their next move. They had gained time, but the situation remained dangerous. Council ships still surrounded their vessel, and military forces were still positioned near Earth's colonies. "We need allies," Susan said, studying data on her tablet. "At least 5 council species showed signs of sympathy during your speech. The myth, the Juxonians, the Iridani." A soft chime interrupted her. The ship's communication officer appeared on a screen. "Ambassador, we're receiving requests for private meetings from several council representatives. The myth want to speak with you immediately. The Iridani and Juxonians are also requesting time." Daniel smiled. It's working. They're reaching out individually instead of as a united council. "It's a start," Rodriguez cautioned, "but Vexenar and the Xanthari still have enormous influence." "Then we need leverage against them," Daniel replied. "Susan, what have you found about the Xanthari in our database?" Susan looked up from her research. "Something interesting, actually. The Xanthari have been blocking Earth's membership for decades, but economic analysis shows they've been secretly harvesting resources from systems near our territory." "They didn't want us to discover their operations," Rodriguez said, understanding immediately. "Exactly. And they're not alone. The Valerians and Drexians have similar operations. All 3 species have been the most vocal against us." Daniel stood. "That's our leverage. Arrange the meetings, starting with the myth. They're the best diplomats in the council." An hour later, Daniel sat across from Talon, the myth representative. Myth were short, 4-armed beings with pale skin and large eyes that seemed to change color with their emotions. Currently, Talon's eyes were a cautious yellow. "Your declaration was either very brave or very foolish, Ambassador Harris," Talon said. "Sometimes the line between bravery and foolishness is thin," Daniel replied. "But my purpose was clear, to show that humans will not be victimized because of our origins." Talon's eyes shifted toward blue. "Many on the council were impressed by your honesty. Admitting your creation by the Krell, then claiming your rebellion as a point of pride. It was unexpected." "Humans value truth," Daniel said, "and freedom. Those values define us more than our genetic origins. And what do humans want from the council, really? If not war, then what? Equal standing, fair treatment, the same respect given to all members." Talon's eyes were fully blue now. "That may be possible, but Vexnar stands firmly against you. The Xanthari have dominated council politics for centuries." Daniel leaned forward. "What if I told you that the Xanthari, along with the Valerians and Drexians, have been illegally harvesting resources from systems near Earth's territory? That their opposition to us is partly to prevent us from discovering these operations." Talon's eyes widened, flashing green with surprise. "You have evidence." Susan entered, carrying a data crystal. Complete records, including ship movements, resource transfers, and communications, all in violation of council law regarding unclaimed systems. Talon took the crystal carefully. "This could shift the balance of power in the council. The Xanthari have enemies who would use this information." "We don't want to create more division," Daniel said. "We want to join the council as equals. These records are a gesture of good faith between potential allies." The meetings continued throughout the day. The Eridani were fascinated by humanity's rapid technological advancement. The Juxonians saw potential trade opportunities. By evening, ship time, Daniel had spoken with representatives from 8 council species. "It's going better than expected," Susan said as they reviewed their progress. Rodriguez remained cautious. Vexenar won't surrender easily. The Zinthari have ruled the council for too long. A message arrived from the myth. The evidence against the Zinthari had been verified and shared with trusted council members. An emergency session had been called for the following morning. Get some rest, Daniel told his team. Tomorrow will determine the future of humanity in this galaxy. As Susan and Rodriguez left, Daniel stood at the viewing port. The massive council station gleamed against the darkness of space. In less than 24 hours, he had taken humanity from facing quarantine to potentially gaining powerful allies. But the most dangerous moments still lay ahead. Vexenar and his allies would not relinquish power without a fight. The question was whether that fight would remain political or become something far more destructive. The next morning, the council chamber was filled to capacity. News of the emergency session had spread throughout the station. Additional security guards lined the walls, their hands near their weapons. The tension was thick enough to touch. Daniel, Susan, and Rodriguez entered together. They noticed immediately that the seating arrangement had changed. The Zinthari no longer occupied the central position they had held for centuries. Instead, the various species were arranged in a true circle, with no faction given prominence. Talon, the myth representative, opened the session instead of Vexenar. The Zinthari leader sat stiffly in his section, his blue skin darker with anger. This emergency session will address two matters, Talon announced. First, the evidence of illegal resource harvesting by certain council members. Second, the petition of Earth to join our alliance. Vexenar stood immediately. These matters are separate. The humans are attempting to distract from their dangerous nature with false accusations. An Eridani representative stood. The accusations are not false. Our scientists have verified the evidence. The Zinthari, Valerians, and Drexians have violated council law regarding unclaimed systems. The chamber erupted with shouting. Daniel watched calmly as the council turned on itself. The species that had been most opposed to Earth were now defending themselves against their peers. After several minutes, Talon restored order. We will address the violations separately. For now, we must decide on Earth's status. Daniel stood. All eyes turned to him. Yesterday, I declared war to defend my planet, he said. Today, I hope to declare peace. Earth does not seek conflict. We seek recognition as equals. You cannot erase what you are, Vexenar said bitterly. The Krell's legacy lives in you. Yes, Daniel agreed, just as every species carries its past. The Valerians were once conquerors. The Juxonians were once slavers. The Eridani nearly destroyed their world with technology. Yet all found better paths. Why deny humans the same opportunity? A new voice spoke, a Drexian who had previously been silent. The human speaks wisdom. We judge them for their origins while hiding our own sins. Rodriguez stepped forward. Earth has recalled its military alert. Our ships have stood down as a show of good faith. And what guarantee do we have of human peaceful intentions? Asked a Valerian. Susan answered, the same guarantee you offer each other, mutual benefit. Earth brings new ideas, new perspectives. We've solved problems differently because of our unique history. The chamber grew quiet as the council members considered this. Finally, Talon spoke again. I propose a vote. Earth to be granted provisional membership with full rights and responsibilities. After a standard cycle, permanent status will be considered based on their actions. The voting was quick. 17 species in favor, 5 opposed, 1 abstention. Earth had won. Daniel smiled as cheers erupted from several delegations. Even some who had voted against them seemed resigned rather than hostile. Only Vexenar and his closest allies remained openly opposed. As the formal documents were prepared, Daniel requested one special edition. When the time came to sign, he added after his name, Representative of Earth, home of the free Krell weapons. Vexenar narrowed his eyes at this, but said nothing. The message was clear. Humans acknowledged their origins but defined themselves by their freedom. After the ceremony, several council representatives approached Daniel privately. Some sought trade agreements. Others offered technical exchanges. A few simply wanted to learn more about these strange creatures who had defied expectations. As they prepared to return to the olive branch for the journey home, Susan asked, "Do you think it will work? True cooperation between humans and aliens." "It won't be easy," Daniel admitted. "We've gained respect through fear. Now we need to earn it through friendship." Rodriguez looked out at the stars visible through the station windows. "We're not just joining their community. We're changing it, making them question their assumptions." Daniel nodded. "That's what humans do best. We adapt, we challenge, we grow. And now we're not doing it alone." The olive branch departed the council station the next day, carrying news that would forever change humanity's place in the galaxy. Earth had faced extinction and instead won acceptance. The descendants of weapons had secured peace. As they accelerated toward home, Daniel knew this was just the beginning. The real work of building trust would take years. But for the first time, humans would face the future as true members of the galactic community, not as outsiders or weapons, but as equals with a unique perspective to offer. And if that perspective sometimes made other species uncomfortable, well, that was just part of being human.